Greetings, Game Changers. This is Classic Games Redefined. My name's Rich. And what I want to do here is this has been a game played by myself and other people relating to the video game industry. The fear of a crash that happened in the early 1980s happening again comes up periodically, and the industry keeps going on, and those who are doomsayers end up looking bad as a result. However, yet Pat the NES Punk brought this up here. He's close to it because he's involved with him on the left, and they actually discuss selling video games, etc. And Pat's actually come out with a guide, the ultimate guide to NES games. So there's a concern here. They have a vested economic interest in the future of retro-style video games and what's happening to the retro video game market. Whether it's going to be sustainable, will the bloom go off if there's a crash, etc. So sustainability is one of it. On the AAA side, you have issues with the whole production budget, and games are now costing over $60 with the DLC, and they boil the frog method of having stolen. But on the retro video game side, he raised an issue about prices going up, prices going down, concerns about them going off here. What I'm saying, a possible answer for sustainability would be to add another aspect of the retro video games. We're looking at it now, but it's not being executed. Actually, two parts of this. The first part I'll go over briefly here. What you have with IFPA and PAPA at Pinball, they have two organizations. You have other organizations that do different stuff here. These video games, the classic style video games, as far as I know, and post comments below if you know of any. There isn't. I think there is the World Series of Retro. We should do a video, maybe interview the guys sometime to discuss this. In the area of doing, and this is the area of having a community to look after this, a players association. I mean, I've done a running gag of PGA for Pac-Man. I don't know if I call it a running gag, but it's a comment I keep saying over and over again. Pretty much that, bringing back Starcade and doing competitions with it, which actually, and having an association behind it that people can belong to, the input, and eventually get this large enough so that you can have professional players make a living at it. The second part here, which leads to it, which is probably hinting at it, is to reframe retro video games as eSports. Actually have people play this tournament style, leagues, formats, and seasons. The closest thing we have now is the Twin Galaxies, the whole set a world's record thing, the King of Kong were to go across and do an annual tournament, but not really sustainable. And there's also, I would say, in regards to the tournament format, they use brackets. It's always insistent on using brackets. The games I'm talking about here, this is another aspect. And also, I will say, rather than just playing retro, you have retro style, is the game with a leaderboard. If you remember the high score board from retro video games, you have that, and who's the top dog? I ran tournaments with that with my Caders group. If you go caders.com, you'll actually see it. With this group here, what you did was you ran a leaderboard, you had a top performer would win, and I ran a King of the Hill format where somebody would come in, and the winner would then defend his title, picking a different game. He always had to pick a different game. Whoever won had to pick a different game to defend their title. They couldn't play in the same game twice. The idea is to find generalists. So with this here, the way to sustainable, to actually make these old school games playable, to actually sustain a market in them and everything else, to get remakes, where else you're going to do, is actually looking at eSports. So I think that area would be a viable way if you could just get the sponsors and everything else. The issue you have with video game stuff, it's so easy to boot up an emulator and go your own way, don't need anybody else, that you don't get a sense of community, so everybody's scattered. So again, this might be a belling the cat problem. This might be borderline impossible. I have an interest in it. So anyhow, I think an idea of making the video game sustainable, we might have a reduction in price, but actually make them sustainable in demand is actually make them still playable. And really the only way I think you can do that is to actually go in an area of have competition of who has the high score, who does the fastest speed run, etc. And there isn't anything like that. There is the, the World Series of Retro, which I've had, which actually has the Tecmo Bowl Championship, I believe, in Wisconsin. They do it every year. And that's what you're looking at. So the end result, this is my take on it. Feel free to post some comments below on how you do this. I think the eSports angle is really the only way it's sustainable. Otherwise, what you're involved with is people going back 20 plus years, and you're doing simply nostalgia. You do nostalgia by yourself and have it without having a competition to have it. In addition, what I would say is mobile phones, what you need here is that if it would be theoretically possible is to have a mix of like the Impossible game or modern indie games with the retro, and have that as a tournament like Shovel Knight, etc. By going this route, you stand a chance, in my opinion, actually have something sustainable. But these are my thoughts. Again, you get a players association together to do this organization. We IFPA and Papa is actually after that also have retro style tournaments, maybe with a leaderboard, whatever else. Have my King of the Hill format. Anyhow, feel free to post some comments below. If this is something that interests you, please post some comments. Say let this here and see what we can get together regarding it. Where I am currently, I'm actually going to look to see if I can pull off the impossible and try to run it. I do run a meetup group for games in general, and I will look to put a calendar. Basic rule for this, get 4 to 6 people together to actually compete where you are, see what's going to happen, and coordinate online. I used to run this with Microsoft Game Room, a decent enough turnout. But the idea is to go further and bring back these games and have them be sustainable. So this way you have a reason to play Space Invaders or whatever else. Now my thoughts, feel free to share your comments below. I'm about ready to upload this video, and that's it. So I'm out of here. So, okay, that's it. I do want to thank you for listening. It would be watching with no emotion to check this video by Pat. Look at his other stuff here. And beyond that, that's it. May your die always roll 5. And don't hate the player. Change the game.